What happens when you stop saying yes to everything? When you stop being on call 24/7 for work, for friends, for life, for everyone else, and you start saying yes to what only matters? Being an assistant, I see this all the time, but this video isn't just for assistants. It's for anyone who ever felt too stretched thin, and that can be for work, at home, and even inside your head. And if you're new here, hey, I'm Jessica. I'm an executive assistant and personal assistant, lifestyle lover, and business owner. Here we talk about all things PA life, career glow ups, hot topics, and of course, actually living a life you enjoy. So if that sounds like your thing, your vibe, stick around. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that I love talking about. It doesn't matter if it's about work, personal reasons, if it's for assisting, you name it. If it's about this topic, boundaries, I'm going to be there. Okay? We're going to be talking about boundaries for yourself, most importantly. And I just wanted to also bring you into a new space. I was going to record this where I typically do, which is in like a working space, but surprisingly, people are working on a Wednesday, not a Wednesday, a weekend at 7 a.m. It's a little odd, so I thought, okay, let me do it somewhere more cozy, and you can see my naked Christmas tree. The holidays are coming up, as you know. We all live in the same world. But since I'm traveling, I thought, why not just put up a Christmas tree, some little decorations around just to keep hope alive. And that way, when I come back, it will pretty much be the new year by the time I come back. But while I'm here, it's just nice to have, like, a little Christmas tree. So I just thought I'll put that disclaimer out if you're wondering, like, why is her tree naked? Like, the tree's up. The tree's up. Okay, no more Christmas tree talk. We're going to be talking about what really matters and why it's so important to establish boundaries and understand what it really means. And I have my notes, so we're going to get right into it. Let me tell you why boundaries matter so much and why it's so important to understand what that means, especially when it becomes to a role like mine where people expect you to be helpful, available, and flexible. But here's where the truth lies. Over time, the job adds on favors, emotional support, and labor. And if you don't protect yourself, you will have burnout. The studies and stories from assistants show this over time and time again. The endless hours, the unpredictable schedules, the emotional load, and lack of respect in general, and that can be for personal time and lack of respect for whoever you're working for as well. These habits can be for personal and for work life. So one habit I like to call the energy audit rule. Before I say yes to any request, I ask myself, is it going to drain me or will it add value to them or for me? If it's draining, I simply and respectfully decline and I renegotiate. Another habit would be communication lines, which is good habit to have, not just for work, but for personal life too, just in general. I let people know what goes where. So emergencies, they go to text, logistics, emails, personal chats. Let's keep that once a week if possible during work hours. It helps keep work from pouring into my personal time and life. Another would be invisible labor awareness. That's a tongue twister. Invisible labor awareness. Often people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. And being an assistant, you are the one that runs things behind the scenes and make sure it goes smoothly. So I've started gently reminding people, putting a deck together for 3 hours, you need it in 3 hours. It could take me longer than that, not 10 minutes. So you say it respectfully, but you have to gently remind people the reality of their request. That way, they respect your time and you respect yours. Another important habit would be identity boundary. I'm here to assist. If you are an assistant, you have to remind yourself and those around you, you're here to assist tasks, not carry emotional burdens or other people's crisis. You have to protect your own identity for your mental health and also your energy. And this is also a good point to also think about having a counselor or a mentor. That way you can really digest what's going on, especially if you're working with someone high profile, they're super demanding, and they can tend to step over your toes, for lack of better words. So it's also good to really think about this habit, identity boundary, to make sure that you are keeping yourself in check. I've seen a lot of assistants merge and become their executive or become whoever they're working for without even realizing it, and that's how they burn bridges. People start not to like them and they just walk around like the whole world like they own it, which it's like you should have that confidence, but you merging into someone else's personality and not realizing that it is actually affecting your mental health and energy is super important. So just think about getting a counselor or even getting into a group, finding another group of assistants or people who work in the same field or industry as you will also help lighten that load, especially if you tend to be an empath and carry other people's emotional burdens. That being said, boundary setting isn't easy. I think it's something we all struggle with, especially when you are a people pleaser or you grew up learning or even thinking that saying no is selfish. So I want to talk about at least 2 things. Maybe we'll see how this goes. But I do think it's something that a lot of us deal with, whether we're assistants, we are a family member, a friend, or even a partner. This is something that is extremely important, and a lot of people don't realize. They go through the whole life not setting any boundaries, and they wonder why they're so tired, or they're not putting their best foot forward, or they're just constantly having bad run-ins with people. So one topic would be the guilt around boundaries. So again, if you're a people pleaser, you tend to be feeling like really guilty for just simply saying no. And you can say it in the nicest way. You can have a long story about why you're saying no, even though no is a one word sentence, period. So feeling guilty about saying no is usually because you're being stretched too thin, and that brings up the idea that burnout is normalized. But many people stay in silent because you're working so hard and you think that's normal. And yes, you should work hard. You can have days where you are working a little bit longer than normal to beat that deadline. But if it's continuous and you are taking a toll on your physical body, your mind, your spirituality, most importantly. You have to see why you feel the need to continuously say yes. Do you think you're going to get in trouble? Do you think you are going to miss out on that promotion? Nine times out of 10, you're not, especially if you're working with someone who knows how hard you work and they respect you and your time. If you clearly communicate, so my camera just died. So where was I? If you clearly communicate that you are starting to feel burnout or you need certain time on task, or if you need to bring in someone else to lighten the load, do what you have to do. But nine times out of 10, whoever you're working for values you so much, they want to have you taken care of. Just remember that. If not, I would start thinking about where this lies for you, how far this really will go for you if you're in this assistant role. Another topic will be when loyalty, which is huge, becomes emotional labor. The difference between being supportive and drained. You have to know the difference. Somehow and sometimes people expect empathy and emotional availability even after hours, even when it's inappropriate. And that loyalty shouldn't cost you your mental health or your identity. We can see this a lot with, I would say, like famous or well-known assistants, where they become so mentally drained or their identity was so impacted that they're going down in the dumps with their CEO or with this huge mogul. We know that we have some in the news right now, and as soon as you see something, say something or leave. It never ends well for the assistant. It never does. It never ends well for the whole team. So just keep that in mind where you think your loyalty has to go beyond yourself. Okay, speaking of assistants that go down in the dumps, I have a story for you. It's not my story. I'm not that messy, but I did receive this letter, which is actually a public forum on Reddit. So I received this letter and I actually saw it on Reddit too, so I'm like, perfect time to talk about it. But this is also about an assistant that did the right thing before it got too deep. So this is by Cowboy Likes Memes. Love the username, Cowboy Likes Memes. And the title is, What Was the Final Straw for You? So, my last day as an assistant, an executive assistant for the worst organization I've ever worked for is tomorrow. I lasted 3.5 months. That's pretty good. But I put in my 2-week notice despite not having anything lined up yet. Good amount of interviews next week though. The final straw was earlier this month. My executive had me contact someone who was on PTO for a time-sensitive meeting. I found out the guy was en route to his mom's funeral, and the call was to let him go. I felt absolutely disgusted and had been ignoring all sorts of red flags from quite literally my first day. See? The amount of work was unsustainable, toxic to the point where I half jokingly asked my partner if I was on an episode of What Would You Do? That is crazy. However, I still felt incredibly guilty for leaving. My executive and director supervisor sent me a massive guilt trip for not setting things up for success. I felt pretty rotten, but this whole ordeal, I felt pretty rotten. about this horrible deal. To those of you who have quit horrible EA jobs, what was the final straw for you? How long did you last in that environment? Or even better, how did you overcome this guilt with grappling with it? Okay, I had to take a little break. My throat was so dry from reading that letter. It's like I don't read or something. That's crazy. But stories like this really matter because it's just not about productivity. It's about your dignity, self-respect, and mental health. Because when you don't draw the line, sometimes the work drags you across. And like Cowboy Likes Meme said, they saw the red flags first day. You tend to see the red flags within the first day, within the first week. And I give that a good indication when you are really being self-aware if this will be a good fit for you and also for them, because it's just not about them, it's about you and vice versa. So I want to ask you, has anything ever happened to you like this? Like if you're in this role now, just think about, hey, like that does rub me the wrong way and it keeps happening. And it's okay to start setting those boundaries now. It's never too late to say, I started off letting this be okay, but actually it's not okay. Now, if you get one thing from this video, I hope you get this, that boundaries are not selfish. They're self-respect. Boundaries preserve your energy, your identity, your peace, and you just as a human being. Whether you're an assistant, an employee, a friend, a partner, a mother, a father, you just living your life, you get to choose what you expect. You deserve that right. So from now on, next time someone asks you, can you give a little bit more? Or if it just rubs you the wrong way, pause, think about your energy and think about your peace. The answer will give you clarity. Just give it time. And when you're kind to yourself, that's how you can show up for everything else and anyone else. Now, if this resonated with you, you know what I'm gonna ask. Don't forget that like, comment, or subscribe button. I'm still new here, so your support is greatly appreciated. If you have any other ideas you want me to talk about, any hot topics, please feel free to drop them in the comments, send me a DM, a message. I love receiving them. We are still growing here, so your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks for hanging out, and don't forget that work and life should both feel good. Until next time, and happy holidays.